And your source for esports racing comes live. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Full Velocity Racing Network, live tonight at the Talladega Super Speedway, a place that we have been to, it feels like 1,000 times before. Back in NR 2003 with Phil Lacasse, Jack Chewin, and Blake McCandless back alongside. Hello, everybody, via Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitch TV. Welcome to the second race of the round of 12. 2019 Hobo Racing Cup Series presented by Voiles Trucking. It is great to have you back alongside Blake. We come back to a place we have all been here about 1 billion times with zillions of laps around this joint, including a couple of nights ago where you were poised to push me to a checkered flag at some point. I came up a couple laps short. We're going to hope we don't come up short here tonight. We got an awesome race. 66 laps around Talladega. Is this a sprint race or a marathon?
Phil, I think we have to describe it as a marathon, and it's funny that you mentioned, the thousands of laps that pretty much any sim racer or any person that's just picked up the controllers and played any form of NASCAR game has made laps around Talladega, but no lap is exactly the same as another, and that's the one thing that's great about Talladega and terrible for these drivers is that there are so many unknowns out there, and I think that's what we're going to see tonight from a lot of these guys. What's going to happen? We don't know.
We have no idea. We're going to wait and see. We know anything can happen in this place. The big one lurks always around every corner. We're about to get there trackside with these guys, so let's take this thing trackside. Let's pay honor to this great nation, the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, the playing of our national anthem.
Drivers, to your cars.
All right, back here at the Talladega Super Speedway, presented by Voiles Trucking tonight. Hobo Racing Cup Series about to roll out there. 66 laps around. They are parked on pit road. They're ready to set these guys loose. Blake, what do you say? Let's take a shot at a Voiles Trucking starting lineup.
Let's do that, Phil. Caleb Lingle, doesn't seem to matter what type of speedway we're running on. He qualified on the pole, but tying his time at least down to the thousandth of a second, 50.021, is Brian Voiles, who started the outside of row number 1. Then it's Danny Hardy and Randy Smith in row number 2, Jeff Stakanis and Keith McLean in row 3, Gary Morin starting 7th, Harry Cody in 8th, Herman Reese 9th, and then Rich Napick in 10th. Let's start trackside for the command.
Drivers, start your engines!
Tell you what, this guy's a pro right there to throw a big trackside, Blake. Hell of a job there as we roll off 11th tonight. We find the sun drop number 9 of Jeff Fugate with the number 29, the point shooter KJ Kilojoules on the outside of row 6. Ralph Pauly rolls 13th aboard car number 61 with the 112 of Eddie Rayleigh starting off 14th. Brendan Spadafora back with us, the 37, rolls off the 15th position with Duke Sorensen. He rolls off 16th aboard car number 59. Bob Gibson's number 46. Next door to him, the 95 of Wiley King. And in row 10, we find the 193 of Ricky Johnson and Everett Lynch, the number 87 back. Well, it's good to see him back.
Sure, it's good to see him back. He'll roll off from 20th. 21st will be Manny D. 22nd, Jason San Diego. 23rd, Ron Simpson. 24th, Danny Rubino. 25th, Steve Rubino. 26th, Ricky Bumbalo. And then the last driver to take time in qualifying is the 11 car rather. He'll be starting 27th. That's Steve Grant. 28th, Kevin Roy. 29th will be Pushrod 17. 30th will be Brett Carter, and then rounding out the back of this field, 31 cars showing up on a Tuesday night here at the Talladega Superspeedway. That'll be Maverick, who, again, these back few drivers electing not to take time. And Phil, at a place like Talladega, that's not a terrible decision. You think you just want to ride it out, maybe try to get through some of these accidents that we might see, especially here at Talladega. They can be big. So a couple of these guys just electing to play it safe here early on.
I'll tell you what, and watching back a little bit of the Cup race yesterday from Talladega, seeing some cars go pirouetting up through the air, tearing up some equipment, watching those cars fly through up like that, I almost thought we were back in the old sim watching things like Brendan Gaughan take off yesterday. So we're going to hope we don't see that here at Talladega, but Lord knows anything can happen, and we look up front. How about a dead tie for the Hard Motorsports Quick Time tonight? Caleb Lingle, Brian Voiles, 50.021 even. I don't know there was dead ties in stock car racing. I think since the very first race at the Daytona International Speedway, all the way back in the day between Joe Weatherly and Lee Petty, I can't remember seeing a dead tie in qualifying. So this is pretty neat as we get the iRacing. Full Velocity Chevrolet Corvette pace car out on pit road. Phil, what game are we playing here tonight? We're back in NR 2003. I'm going to shake the iRacing bug out of my head, Blake. I'll throw it to you as we're ready to rock and roll. 66 laps around. We get the iRacing guy flag. Green flag approaching.
And the green flag's out in the air, and how about that restart from Brian Voiles on the outside lane? He gets a little bit of a jump on Caleb Lingle as they head down into turn number 1 for the first of 66 circuits around the Talladega Superspeedway. Right now, that high line starting to form. Danny Hardy, he'll pull in tow of that 68 Voiles trucking forward, but it looks like Caleb Lingle using the bottom side. He'll be able to clear the 68, so move Lingle to the top spot as the field starts to run up behind him. As we head into turn number 3, everybody looks like so far favoring that outside line as they head into 3.
And I think that's something we may see here early as Danny Hardy, the first car up there, third car up in line. Justicanis brings his Dodge to the low side. He'll pull alongside along Brian Voiles. He may even get a push up to the race lead. Can he chase down Caleb Lingle? We're in the tribal. Lingle going to lead through lap number 1.
It looks like Lingle's in that catbird seat, or should I say the control seat. He's got the front spot, but Voiles is going to take it from him. I was just about to say Lingle is going to make his car wide and kind of block both lanes, but he was not able to block the run that Brian Voiles had on the front straightaway. They'll be side by side, and they're too wide, about 5, 6, 7 rows deep through this field right now. Getting a good push from Jeff Stakanis there on the inside as they're even heading into 3 and actually move that Voiles trucking forward out to the front.
Sure is. Voiles up to the lead. Danny Hardy on the outside. Good push from Randy Smith. But as he hit the edge of the 3, you see the inside lane start coming back. And that's almost typical of what we've seen here at Talladega. Outside lane always looks to be the place to be, through the straightaways, to the triangle, to the exit of the corners. But for whatever reason, into one end of turn number 3, that inside lane kind of brings that accordion effect back in. As you see, it's going to be Brian Voiles going to lead lap number 2. Danny Hardy going to sneak ahead. They're racing back here for 3rd, but I think by the time we get back over to turn 1, I believe you'll see the inside lane led by Caleb Lingle. He'll pull right back along Danny Hardy there, racing for 2nd off of 2.
Well, I'll tell you what, Phil, the first thing I'm seeing from this inside lane is you can look on your screen right now. They're not as formed up as that top lane, but they're still able to keep pace. You can see Gary Morin has pretty good amount of space, about an entire car length behind him back to Herman Reese. So this bottom line, not as close and not as much energy behind that line, but yet they're still not losing that much ground. Caleb Lingle now, he's running 4th right alongside the 3rd car in the outside lane as they'll pull in front of him. That's Randy Smith, and now it's Keith McLean trying to take advantage. So I think that speaks to how strong the bottom line is. They're just not formed up right now. Can't really compete with that top lane just yet.
No, not yet, but we'll see if we get numbers down there. But the top lane's got that trend going around. As you said, Randy Smith, Keith McLean up there. It's Harry Codian, 5th car in line. He's alongside Caleb Lingle as we run down the super stretch here at the Talladega Superspeedway. Here comes the Harley-Davidson number 6 of Rich Knappick. He'll fight his way up to the long side. 61 of Ralph Pauly up there as well. So you say the bottom lane not quite as formed up there, but we're thinking back to that 2003 now. We're going back in the day. There was no such thing as tandem drafting, but it was kind of the way of bump drafting and being as close to the guy in front of you without having to hit him and you lose that momentum. you need a really good pusher at a place like this back in this old game to make something happen. I think that brings the importance of putting this, getting these guys nose to tail and staying committed to it and making sure there's even space between. You can really make some time. That's exactly what that top lane is doing over in turn 1.
They certainly are. The top lane not shy of bump drafting, but also staying closer. You see on that bottom lane, Caleb Lingle and Jeff Stakanis, they're linked up, but look at all that space that is between Stakanis and Gary Morin right now. Can't really blame Morin. It's early on in this race. You have a long way to go. This is a marathon, as we were talking about earlier, all the way to the end. So Morin not wanting to be aggressive in bump drafting Stakanis, but that's really costing that bottom lane right now. You can see that top lane formed up close to each other, and Lingle and Stakanis nowhere to go. They're being freight trained right now. But again, there's just so much space between those guys on the bottom. That's why you're slowly starting to see them drift back through the field.
They really are. We think about the TR version of this racetrack as I'm back here about, mid-pack where I find the likes of Gary Morin back here, Duke Sorensen, they're side-by-side back for about 10th or 11th here through turns number 1 and 2. But I thought of 59, he had a thought to take that car through the middle. And the old TR version, if I remember well, Blake, this is a racetrack you can really get 3 wide on and make it something happen, especially if you get 3 lanes with, pushers and covers and govers all kind of equal. We may see a really good race here later on if we get 3 wide, but they're going to stay tame. It's still early, only 6 laps in, so a lot of racing left to go. But I think over the course of the night, somebody decides to shoot that gap through the middle. If they've got committed help behind them, it's not unforeseen that can happen.
Well, and I think we might see that, Phil. One guy that's trying to shake it up is Ralph Pauly. He was up in that outside lane, moved up, and now he's jumped in front of Caleb Lingle on the bottom. He hasn't gained a spot just yet, but that's what you're going to see is, are these guys willing to be patient? You see that long line on the top side, but if you get momentum and you get a run, you don't want to waste it. I kind of think back to Joey Logano yesterday. Oh, and there's somebody that's going up in smoke. It's Jeff Stakanis. He'll spin to the inside retaining wall here in the grass on the back straightaway. As something went amiss, the engine is cooked on that 31 machine. He'll spin it down to the bottom, though. Caution flag has not been displayed yet, and actually, indeed, it is. So tough luck for Jeff Stakanis. He was just riding along there on the bottom line, and here on lap 7, not the way he wanted to see his night come to an end. He's pulled it behind the wall and displayed our first caution flag of the evening.
Yeah, absolutely. First Hannibal Record Service yellow flag of the night. Find us on lap number 8. And that's exactly what happened there. 31 just riding along in line. You almost wonder if he was pulling maybe too many gears of the RPMs. Was there too much tape on that thing? Because that thing just let go in, a very weird spot right in the middle of the back straightaway where you're kind of not revving that thing up too high. So you almost wonder if there was a temp issue that may have been forming there. Jeff was attempting to maybe get out of line, but it's so hard to do when you're pack racing. You can't really pull low because you don't want to lose the traffic. It's so hard to cool one of these things down. I wonder if that was RPMs or tape. I'll try to do some work here behind the scenes and find that out.
Well, again, we'll have to try and find out. And Phil, I think there's something to that because we were watching this entire first run, and Stakanis was probably the most aggressive pusher out of anybody in this field just because he knows the low line. Didn't have quite the energy to keep up with the high side, so you saw him being really aggressive and staying really close to Caleb Lingle. That means there's not as much air coming to that engine to try and cool it down, and we actually saw Stakanis right before his engine let go. He was running in the middle where nobody was drafting him, so perhaps, and again, this is just an early diagnosis, perhaps he was trying to get some air to the nose of that race car when it went, and we'll have to, actually, I'm going to ride along here in his cockpit view and see if there was any kind of gauge that was out of whack, and I don't think I really noticed anything that would have stuck out there. I think it just may have been a random failure. So who knows? But unfortunately for Jeff Stakanis, it's an early into his night.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I was going to look over here and to see if we had two-way communication with Jeff, but it looks like there's a car with the pit area. He is kind of, left here as well, and I looked over here to see if we can get two-way through TeamSpeak, and he has already left us for the evening as well. So I'm sure pretty dejected is that number 31 as we talk about we're into the second race of the round of 12, and you look at my 12 drivers listed on our sheet here. You see a name like Jeff Stakanis that came in right in the thralls of this thing here today, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me see. Where is Jeff's name in this? Oh, it's Fugate was thinking of. No, not just Decatur's out there. He was 24th in the standings, so wasn't a championship contender. So I guess it's not the heartbreak I really thought it could be. But God, when you come out here at Talladega, get a good piece, you're running good early, put a good qualifying lap on the board. Man, you just want to go out there and log some laps to feel out the race car, get through around the pit stops and whatnot. Sucks it's too soon for Jeff because I think he had a good piece. And now you look to a guy like Jeff Fugate's number 9, a guy who is running for a championship, coming in 4th in the standings. Yeah, 4th is a pretty good sailing right now, thinking if you get toward the round of 8. But now he loses his teammate and potentially a drafting partner that may help him out later. That may be a bigger break than we know.
That's a great point, Phil. I don't think people realize how important it is to have somebody that when they're with you, they can stick with you. You know, when they're behind you, they'll follow you wherever you decide to go. And another thing that, again, comes into play with how these guys race a Hobo, open setups. So you have somebody to kind of reference, just because Talladega is a track where everybody, you know, kind of drives the same. You put the throttle down and you turn. That's really about it. It's not like Kansas or any typical cookie cutter mile and a half where you have different driving styles. People want to run different lines. So you have a reference as a setup to try and help, and we'll have to see if Fugate perhaps made an adjustment looking at what happened to Stacanis to try and maybe fix whatever issue ailed that 31 machine. But again, just a real unfortunate break there, and losing the teammate, obviously, for Fugate is not something you want to see either.
No, absolutely not. As we look toward pit road, I see a lot of the leaders have decided to come on and, you know, why not top that thing full of fuel? We were 8 laps in under green, so you got to think probably about halfway through a fuel run, maybe not quite, but just about there. So why not come in, you know, get that thing full? I'm not sure. You know, tire wear was never really a big factor here at Talladega. So being so early on in the going, is track mission really a big deal? Are you just going into gas and go right now? Or are you going to put at least 2 tires on, or maybe even 4 right now, knowing you really got nothing to lose here this early?
Well, look at most of these guys, and they're taking 4, and the one thing that you want to do if you think you have a good race car is you want to take those 4 tires while you can under caution, because you're not wearing the tires as much at Talladega. If you're running green flag, that's when you want to do a potential 2-tire or no tire stop to try and save some time under green flag conditions. But when you're under caution, that's when you can afford to take those 4 tires so that you don't even have to worry about it once we get green flag racing. But I did look at the fuel window before these guys ended up rolling off tonight. It's anywhere between 18 and 19 laps. So some of these guys looking forward about 55 laps to go when we restart. That could be a race-winning move if we go green all the way to the end. Some of these guys probably getting an extra half a lap of fuel by pitting right there, and you never know. All you need to do is save about a lap. You'll spend an entire run doing it here at Talladega, but if you can find a way to make it to the end here on just 2 stops, it could be a race-winning move.
It really could be. You don't want to do what I did. You know, you also got to know when the one to go is coming and when the right time to come down and properly top off is, because I guess somebody like you would tell me that could save you a good half a lap to 3/4 of a lap in a place like this. And you got to think about it. 2.66 miles, that 3/4 of a lap, that's a lot of ground that you can save just by coming in at 1 to go. So I wonder how many we're going to see come down there and elect now to top off. I see Steve Grant, who has scored the race leader. He's going to be the first of those thinking exactly that. Come in and top off now while you can.
Well, he's going to do it, and I didn't realize we still have 1 more lap to go. I think the lights will go off on the pace car this time. It looks like Fugate, one of the few guys, along with Caleb Lingle, Randy Smith, I believe that, can't tell if that's Ricky Johnson or Brian Voiles. Indeed, it's Ricky Johnson who will elect to come down pit road, and I believe they're going to do what we just talked about, Phil, top off and try to get that fuel window lined up. We'll have 54 laps remaining, so if you think about it, 18 laps on gas, it's right down the middle where you're going to be A-OK or good to go, so we think, to be able to go to the end of this thing. But that is the one thing that makes Talladega so challenging when you think about fuel mileage, because there's so many things that come into question. How much are you throttling up on the straightaways? Do you have the draft in front of you to try to help you save a little bit of fuel? And then the biggest thing you have to think about is if you're going to try to extend a couple laps past the rest of the field, do you have draft when everybody else is on pit road and you're still staying out there? Because if you don't, you're losing about 1.5 seconds a lap, and as soon as you come back up on the track, the pack's going to be gone. You're going to lose the draft, and then that's going to be a losing move. So if you're going to make this strategy call, you have to do it in a group. Otherwise, you're going to lose so much time by not having any draft.
And you wonder why guys like me go out there to lead the last third of one of these races. I have no idea how to save fuel. And what I learned the most, Blake, you can't save fuel as a lead car, because if you lift, well, you're probably going to get run over. Happened to me. I speak from experience. I made the two grave mistakes of being a lead car and not pitting at one to go. Maybe I'll learn from a guy like you who wins these things every once in a while. Maybe mine will come one day. Maybe. We'll see. I think I threw away a good piece Saturday night, but I was still salty about it. I really am. I looked up. I know I had probably one of the best pushes with you behind me in the business. You were committed. We weren't going to leave each other's wing side, and I just shake my head. They're so close. I haven't put a race like that together in so long. I'm just salty, Blake. I just can't stand it. It makes me sick to come back here to Talladega a few nights later and just relive that horror all over again.
Well, it stinks because I was thinking, well, if we get a caution here, you'll be out front while everybody else is trying to save. So it was a bit of a gamble, and unfortunately it just didn't work out. We were able to go green to the end. That's what some of these guys in the back of the field are hoping, that we can go green to the end. But as the green flag comes back out, we'll turn the race over to Brian Voiles, who was running second in the outside lane early on. Again, single file restarts here, which that's really going to be an interesting thing as we continue to go forward here, because everybody's in a single file line already. So jumping out to the bottom side and being that first car down there is a big risk. So it'll be interesting to see how these guys played out here on the single file start. But right now, Voiles and then Harry Cody and right behind them, they're trying to check out from the rest of this field.
They are. You got to think also, coming to these restarts, Blake, open setups, you may have a different gear combination that may take you a little bit longer to get up through the gears, or could have a shorter first gear where you could really rev that thing up and get up into the high gears really quickly. So I think that may be also something to watch here with these restarts if we get one late, because whatever gear you've got in the race car now, you're kind of stuck with. You can't go back behind the wall and change that, but the field all starts to fan back together. Brian Voiles is going to lead, and look at the entire top 10 for the most part are all going to stay single file glued up against the wall. Who is going to be the first one to break rank? Who is going to go to the bottom first as we head to turn one?
I really don't know, Phil. It's just when everybody starts single file, you're really asking somebody to try to make a daring move to go down to the bottom with some momentum, but you need some people to follow you. But I think some people in the back of this field around 12th are starting to make that happen. You look at Ricky Bumbleow, Brendan Spadafora, Herman Reese. It looks like they're willing to test the waters and go down to the bottom side of this racetrack as they're starting to shift a little bit back here towards the 10th position, try to make that inside line work and try to make a run up to the front.
That sure is. And I thought Bumbleow may be that third car down low. He was the first one to take a thought to the low side. He's brought himself back up high. Now he'll go back to the low side again. Probably playing a little bit of the air game right now. Maybe trying to see how these cars will react around one another. Put three cars down low together, see how it works. But, man, you go back there, look at the 85. By the time I got into turn one, what a wicked head of steam he had. He passed three cars, and can he clear Herman Reese? Well, the answer is no. They touch it. Oh, we almost have contact. And potentially a wreck. We do got a wreck. A big one down the back straightaway.
Ricky Bumbleow's in the outside retaining wall. Danny Rubino is in it as well. Ralph Pauly may have gotten a piece of that action. A couple of cars spun out here on the back straightaway as just a really strange move by Ricky Bumbleow there. He was running side by side with Herman Reese. They made contact on the straightaway. It looked like Reese was either trying to side draft him or maybe thought he was clear and trying to get into his lane. Nevertheless, Bumbleow hits him, loses control on the back straightaway. And luckily, I think for most of this field, not too heavy damage. It looks like the 21 car is going to get the worst of this. That was not Danny, that was Steve Rubino. So apologize out there to anybody who was confused by that. Similar paint schemes will do that to you. But a really awkward move that shows you that nowhere is safe here at Talladega, whether you're in the corner or on the straightaway. Chaos can happen at any place at any time.
And I'll tell you what, you would think these race car drivers that have been out there for a long time, even the professionals do this. We reckon the straightaways. How bizarre is that? But you can see the 85 made that big move down to the low side, past the 37, was trying to clear the 73 with that big head of steam. And I think, if he mistimed the runner, didn't know how it was going to play out for him and just washed up into the side of Herman there. And, once you lose grip of that wheel, that front tires bite the other way. you go to 190 plus miles per hour, these cars become a handful to wheel, and Ricky just lost control and unfortunately back up the racetrack, and poor Steve Rubino just nowhere to go, and that stinks because Steve was a guy out there I think just kind of running, gonna bide his time. Qualified near the back, was hanging out toward the back, saving his race car. It's just that whole thing of plate racing, Blake. I hate it because your fate never feels like it's truly in your hands in a place like this, and it's the most helpless feeling as a race car driver and a competitor.
It is, and I think I at least know the thinking behind what Ricky Bumbleow was trying to do. We had seen him pioneer that inside line for just a little bit, but what he was doing is he was pulling low, making up spots, and then pulling back into the main line to try and get that draft down the straightaways and then use that momentum to go to the bottom side in the corners. And I think that shows you how desperate these guys are going to be to get that draft down the straightaways. Bumbleow was just trying to get in line to try and get behind the 59 machine of Sorensen to try to get some of that draft. But, I mean, Herman Reese was right there. So that was just a very, probably overly aggressive move here for lap 14 to 66. And unfortunately for a couple guys in the back of this field, you're right, Phil, you're just not in control of your fate at a place like Talladega. You can be riding in the back, in the front, anywhere, and run into bad luck. And Bumbleow there just made a bad move trying to get back in line, and unfortunately it's going to cost some people some damage. And Bumbleow here calling the tow truck to go around. He'll probably go a lap down. But just real unfortunate for these guys. But it shows you how desperate they are once they get out and they don't have draft in front of them to try and get back in line.
That's absolutely right there. And we see our Bumbleow is on pit road there. Some heavy damage. Didn't have to call the tow truck down there. Also, Wiley King, the number 95, caught up in that one as well. 95 car, the damage too severe to go on. So Wiley King going to go behind the wall and join Jeff Stakanis. And we know Steve Rubino's car is all tore up as well. So that's really a tough break for these fellas. It's 66 laps in of 66 here at Talladega Super Speedway. We'll repause, we'll regroup, we'll take a brief pause under the yellow flag. We'll come back with the restart live on your source for esports racing. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here. Enjoy the sights and the sounds of Talladega under caution.
Hi, I'm Brendan Spadafora, host of Full Throttle with the Gent and driver of the number 37 Two Guns Films Ford Mustang in the Hobo Racing League. You're watching Full Velocity Racing Network here on YouTube, your number one source for esports racing.
All right, Jack says it's time to get back to racing here, so I guess I got to listen to him as my director. He does a great job every Tuesday night here with the Hobo Racing League and jumping back and directing it in 2003. I'm going to tell you what, I think Jack has kind of overtaken my buddy Todd as the main control guy over here, because I'll tell you what, Todd's a little bit too chicken to come out here and play with these controls on Tuesday. So, Jack, I salute you. You've got this thing figured out. They have been flawless for basically a little while, as much tough as this old game is to do, and really happy to see that here as we're having a great night at Talladega. 18 laps in, as looks like we are about ready to set to go, Blake, to get back to a restart with a single file start this time. Harry Cody in, leading Jeff Fugate, Brian Voiles, Danny Hardy, and Manny Diaz at number 710. Good run early on for Manny today. He finds himself in the top 5. That car is probably pretty good.
Yeah, it certainly is, and I think what we're going to see here, Phil, on this restart, we're going back to a single file to restart. I think we saw that some guys are probably going to tone it down a little bit after this restart. Of course, it's hard to tell a race car driver that, but I think they've seen a couple of the accidents were unwarranted through those first 20 laps. We're single file right now. Let's ride this thing out just for a couple of laps, get the feel of each other, and then maybe try to make some moves before we would hopefully get to green flag pit stops. That's my prediction. I could be like Booger McFarland last night on Monday Night Football and be wrong about everything I say, but at least that's what I'm going with.
I don't know if I can follow that. I just don't know. There's probably a penalty flag somewhere or a really bad Dak Prescott throw. I don't know. I don't even want to think of football because it just makes me cringe once again. It was a bad weekend for me, I'll tell you what. But we're back to green flag racing. Harry Cody and Jeff Fugate going to lead the field over to turn number 1 and 2 in this single file restart. We'll see how long this train decides to say single file, because the last restart, Blake, the first car that came on a line, well, it didn't end so well for Ricky Bumbalow. How much do you think this field has observed there? What just happened?
I think they're taking good note of it, because you see all the way through the top 10 single file, but a lot of these guys in the back of the field, they need to form up soon. There's quite a gap between 10th and 11th right now. Brendan Spadafora, full throttle with the Gent, running in 10th, and then Keith McLean in 11th. Need to get sorted through back there to make sure you can catch that draft. Don't want to lose the pack here. I think these guys are figuring out that right now, and I think actually McLean is going to tag onto the draft here of these guys up front, but a lot of these guys in the back willing to be aggressive. Meanwhile, everybody up front, I think, understands that this is a long race. No need to try and make an aggressive move just yet. And as I say that, they're getting too wide up here at the front. So guess I was totally wrong about that prediction, and they'll make it single file here down the back straightaway.
Yeah, I guess race car drivers, I guess we sometime never learn, and old habits die hard, or we just die trying, I guess. But we do stay single file over to turn number 3. Now the first car jumping out of line, that appears to be, is that Herman Respecter? Might have been KJ. It was a black car up back there in line. It was KJ's 029. He brings the field down to the low side. We know he's in a good piece, but can even the mighty Kilojoules make a run to the low side? Now look, he's got friends. They all come low. We're 3 wide for the lead at the line.
And it'll be Fugate up the middle, taking the lead, at least at the stripe for now, on lap 20. He leads lap 20, but right now it looks like the field, a mass exodus from the top side to the bottom side, as it looks like Fugate getting hung out to dry here for the most part. It was really interesting there. The field mostly running the middle, and as soon as some drivers in the back saw some opportunity there on the bottom, everybody moved there. So this is really interesting, and they go back to the middle here in 3 and 4. So this could be a really interesting race. I think there's more speed on the bottom side, and I think you may see that a couple more times, this kind of top group that's running the middle to the high side. As soon as they start to get threatened on the bottom, you're going to see 4 or 5 cars move down and try and block the run that they have.
I'll tell you what, that outside lane right there, it emptied out like Dodger Stadium in the 10th inning, I tell you, as they all went down to the low side. Yes, I said it. That's right. L.A., take that. Not a fan. We'll love that pot shot right there, but man, they're all back up high. Now it's on the 710 of Manny Diaz. He is down low trying to make it happen. But, Manny, you need some friends there, bud. And it don't like he's got many takers, because Herman Reese is going to go by. Gary Morin's there. Rich Knapping is there. Manny D may be a guy on an island by the time we exit turn 4.
And unfortunately, that's what happens when everybody leaves you out to dry. Manny D, no draft. And you can see he's probably going to continue to get freight train. He'll be able to pull up here behind Ricky Johnson, but he's going to fall all the way from his 7th position that he was running with, now back to 10th. He gets into the outside wall, but he'll keep it going straight. Still single file up through the top 10, but now he'll lose another spot to Gary Morin, who goes on by on the bottom side. So this bottom groove is a great passing lane, but there you see it. Keith McLean not able to complete that pass. Manny D is going to use the draft and go right by him. So don't want to bring dirt racing terms into this. I know we do plenty of that on the Full Velocity Racing Network and iRacing, but we're almost going to have to do a slide job, if I can even say that, at Talladega. You're going to drift down low, drive it in hard, and then hope you can kind of beat that guy on the top side to get that draft off the corner.
I'm hoping that's the only slide job we talk about at Talladega, too, because I did one the other night off the apron, and I tell you what, I thought I was a dirt there for a minute. I've never steered back to the right so hard in my life, playing with gas and brakes, somehow held on to my car. So I'm going to hope nobody does that here. But look, we got some friends to the low side. Rick Johnson's got some help from Manny Diaz. They shoot up the low side. You can really get a good run. The problem is right now, you need a whole lot of friends down there to make that pass complete. And then look at that. They start kind of peeking down to the low side. It's kind of like a slinky effect over there. They come away, they get back together. How many cars do we need down there to make that low side work?
I'm not quite sure. I think it's the faster line, so I think you'll see if you can get 2, 3, 4 cars there formed up on the bottom. I think at the very least you can compete and keep pace with that outside lane. We'll see if this bottom lane can try and move forward. Right now, Ricky Johnson trying to make some hay. He's moved up from 8th to 7th, trying to run the bottom there, but you can see in the corner, able to make up a ton of ground. He'll go right by Herman Reese. Harry Codian, he'll try to move past him and even pull up to Fugate on the straightaway. So you see he's able to pass an entire car, about a car and a half, but then here on the straightaway, you lose all that draft, and here comes the top line all the way back. Johnson could move up high, but he's not going to. He's going to let Harry Codian try and make a charge on the bottom and make some hay through this field.
Yeah, and I was just kind of having some off-channel stuff there. I was talking to the ambassador of Jet Nation, our buddy Brendan Spataford. He said, cannot put that car to the bottom without a lot of help. If you do, it's kind of like a parachute. Even Ricky Johnson out there, being that first car punching that hole in the air, he's got some tandem behind 4 or 5 cars pushing. That's going to be the best friend he has, because you push that big hole in the air on the bottom, you're going to need that big shove. And look at him, he's to the inside of Cody and even maybe up to even Danny Hardy by the time we exit turn 2.
And Cody Ann getting a nice shove as now the bottom line starting to form up here. Only 4 cars right now on the top side. Voiles, Hardy, KJ, and Fugate. They're starting to get outnumbered as Harry Cody Ann looking for a part of the lead. Ricky Johnson gets into the back of him, squirrels the back end of that 13 Chevrolet. It'll push him out to the lead right now as they head off of turn number 4. The bottom line starting to become the favor line here at Talladega, and it's causing a change for the lead. Harry Cody Ann through the tri-oval side by side with Brian Voiles on the top side, and good to see Danny Hardy out here as well. Nearly even at the line. We'll give it to Brian here on lap 26, but these guys starting to get racy up here. This bottom line starting to show some strength for the high side, keeping pace.
Yeah, it sure is, and I'm seeing that difference in numbers right now. Low side had some pretty good cars down there, kind of pushing and shoving. That really helped them get up there, but you know, when Harry Cody Ann got up to the lead car, Brian Voiles, Brian's been able to keep that momentum built up high, and that's because of a good shove like the 03 of Danny Hardy. They separate bumpers there, and now you can see that's team racing right there. Harry Cody Ann up the hill. I'm almost expecting Ricky Johnson to try to find his way in line up high, as well as 13 able to switch lanes. He's going to push Brian Voiles. Look at Voiles trying to keep 2 lanes behind through the tri-oval.
And I think Harry Cody Ann is going to try to make quick work of that, find some way that he can either poke low or poke high on that 68 Ford that is right in front of him. And actually, Voiles is going to abandon the top side, pull down in front of Ricky Johnson. Johnson's going to go with Voiles to the top side, so put the 2 teammates side by side. But Manny D, he'll have something to say about that as Keith McLean will try and make a move with him on the bottom side. But the 2 teammates right now using all the cars that have moved to the top side, they carry the momentum, and now Voiles Trucking running 1-2 at Talladega.
They certainly are, and I see this whole PPR2 team starting to kind of find themselves out there. Ricky and Brian, I see McLean back here with Kilo Jules all starting to go up high. Manny D was kind of all by himself down low, but he's got the cavalry coming with Herman Reese 73, Duke Sorensen down there, but They have separated from bumper to bumper out there. You can see how that inside lane continues to fall. Manny Dean trying to make a run for the lead. He may end up 5th by the time we exit turn 2.
He might, and I think he'll continue to fall back as it looks like everybody's starting to favor the high side of the racetrack. But one thing we ought to mention, Phil, part of the race that we're not seeing right now is you look at this front pack. Guess how many cars there are in this pack? 15. We came in with 31 cars, so there is an entire pack that is 6 seconds behind the rest of this field. They thought, hey, these guys are going to go racing up there. They're going to get out of shape. There's probably going to be an accident. Need to take it easy and just lay back and hope for that wreck. Well, right now, it looks like as that top pack starts to get single file out, these guys that are all the way back here, and it includes some big names, Randy Smith, Caleb Lingle, our pole sitter, a lot of guys back here running in this second pack, way far behind the leaders. It's now exactly at 6 seconds, and they lost about 3 or 4 tenths that time. So a lot of these big hitters that were thinking to play it easy, they're losing a lot of time to these leaders. So eventually they're going to hope for that yellow flag.
They absolutely are, Blake, and I think we're getting right on the edge cut line of possibly around a green flag pit stops coming, because I saw flashers go out for the 9 car of Jeff Fugate, that bright green sun drop Dodge just to the low side. It looks like he's going to be the first of our race leaders to peel on off into pit road, so this may be something else to think about. I don't believe Fugate may have stopped in that last stop. He becomes the first onto the pit lane, and losing that teammate with Jeff Stacanis earlier, this could be a big detriment right now, because it looks like he may be all by his lonesome on pit road.
Phil, this is going to be killer for that Sundrop Dodge. He's the only car on pit road. He's going to be the only car leaving it, and you just lose so much time. He's probably going to lose about anywhere between 2 and 2.5 seconds a lap not being in the draft. So once this field cycles around, he's going to be very far behind this pack. So no doubt Fugate trying to hope for a yellow as well as we continue to see how long these guys can go. We know some of the guys that pit more recently probably still have anywhere between 5 to 10 laps left on fuel, and one car is up in smoke. Another one goes up. It's Harry Codian, who was just running up in the front of this field. He was in the 3rd position. That car goes up in smokes. He's able to make it onto pit road, and I doubt they're going to be able to fix that as the engine bellowing with smoke here, covering the grandstands on the front straightaway. We'll see if he's able to make it into his pit stall and see what the diagnosis is. I think that's going to be the end of the night for the 13.
That's really interesting right there, because he was up there in that lead line running the inside. I believe he was the first car there, and I almost wonder, was this a move that he was planning to come to pit road and maybe, downshifted a little bit too early and over-end the engine, or it's just a catastrophic failure back in traffic, Blake? I'll let you do some investigative reporting there, and maybe even Jack, if you can, maybe go back there and take a brief look at it and see what in the world happened to that number 13, because we flashed by pit road and all the leaders are basically still out there.
No, it didn't look like he missed a shift or anything. You're right, Phil. It looked like he was running low, looked like he was in the lane to come down pit road, and just something random went and miss on that 13 machine. The second car to blow up, and again, that's what you see with these open setups. Guys want every advantage they can, trying to work their way through the draft and through the air, but unfortunately you create some instances where you might overheat if you're behind some guys for too long, and I think that's why you don't see the typical bump drafting that we may see at a fixed race, where you're not really worrying about a lot of grill tape because everybody has the same thing. Well, now you shift it, everything's different, and some of these guys maybe put too much tape and are struggling with that, and unfortunate for some of these guys, because you have to wonder, guys like Cody Ann, if you have teammates, they're running out there in the same situation, are they in trouble of blowing up?
Well, that could be a possibility indeed, as I see a couple of cars that peeled off the banking, including the 73 of Herman Reese, Duke Sorensen's number 59. They're both in, as is the 37 of Brendan Spadafora. We'll see if these guys come on pit road and elect to take a gas and go, or maybe 2 rights, 2 lefts, or 4 tires. I'll look down here to the 37 camp. I do see right side tires in the air here. I'll flash back to even Duke Sorensen. Duke taking only gas and go in the 59. Herman reached the same thing, so maybe a different bit of the strategy being played here. You want to spend as little bit of time on pit road as you can, and it looks like all 3 of those stops right there are going to go away clean as we keep our eye toward pit road, because I think in the next lap or so we're going to see even more action.
Well, we see 2 more cars peel off towards pit road, it's Keith McLean and Manny D. The one thing you have to watch here at Talladega, this is a difficult pit road to get onto, especially many of the times you're pitting, you have about 5 or 10 cars around you, and it's kind of deceiving. There's no banking. You're carrying a ton of speed. You're going 200 off of turn 4, so can be really interesting. You'll see guys like Ryan Blaney did in that Cup race yesterday. He wheel hopped it, spun it out. So this is a difficult pit road to get onto, even though it seems pretty straightforward, but plenty of more guys electing to come down pit road this time. We'll see how much further the rest of this field goes. I like a lot of these guys in this front pack. It looks like they're going to pit now. Brian Voiles, Ricky Johnson, Danny Hardy, KJ Maverick, Gary Morin. They're all going to get on pit road, and it looks like they're clean. Looks like we saw some tire smoke, though, so perhaps some of these guys maybe came in a little hot. That'll be another topic we'll have to talk about.
Oh, my goodness, Blake, can you talk about the possibility of getting on pit road hot and hoping not for a black flag? Well, how about not seeing a caution flag in the middle of green flag pit stops? And that is exactly what we have on the racetrack. Yellow, yellow, yellow on the speedway, as I saw Ricky Johnson pass all the way by pit road. Brian Voiles, he had to stop on his side. I believe a couple of other cars may have as well. So a yellow comes on the racetrack. Danny Hardy also hit his stall, as did Maverick. Gary Morin, Eddie Riley, all those guys came in and pitted. They're under that yellow flag. So the bad news is they're probably going to get some kind of penalty from this old Fiske game, because they're going to be docked with probably being on pit road and pitting while the pit road was closed. But, man, a yellow flag this part of the go, that is a tough break for these guys that just came in, and even better, a big break for the likes of, say, a Randy Smith and a Caleb Lingle. I believe they were the last 2 holdouts that have yet come pit side.
Well, it's going to help them out that they're not trapped a lap down, but you also have to think they weren't on pit road. The guys that don't go a lap down, they'll be able to stay out and get that track position. The guys that did stay out, they'll eventually have to come down pit road. And I believe that it was a debris caution, because I'm looking all over this racetrack. Yeah, there was no caution. The 87, his engine went up in flames, and then he hit the outside wall. And that is one thing about this game, that occasionally when you blow an engine, it'll say that it's leaking oil out on the racetrack, and a debris caution will come out as a result. And I believe that that's what happened. And the interesting thing about Everett Lentz running here on the back straightaway, he was all by himself. It's not like he's sucked up on somebody's bumper, getting draft, not getting air to the nose of that race car. He was all by his lonesome and blew up. So these guys pushing their setups to the limit, because he's the 3rd guy here in the first half of this race to pull it behind the wall.
Yeah, absolutely. And Blake, I'll give you even one more to investigate. I was going on board with Everett there, as he was all by himself, just left pit road, I believe, and it blew up as soon as he shifted into the next gear, and I almost wonder if he may have shifted the wrong way, because as soon as that car changed gears, it went up in smoke. So I wonder, maybe a shift up from 2nd up to 3rd may have possibly put it into 1st by mistake. I've done it a couple times, because that car blew up almost instantly.
And I think you're right, and he actually put it out in our YouTube chat. So some self-made investigative reporting right there for Everett Lentz, says his car goes up in flames after mis-shifting, getting up to speed on the back straightaway. And, of course, the way these cars run, they run 7,000 RPMs, at least in the Cup physics here at super speedways. And obviously when you mis-shift, you're going to push it way past what that restrictor plate is capable of running. So very unfortunate for Everett Lentz. We'll see how this cycles out, how many guys will be a lap down. It doesn't look like anybody is right now. We may have some cars that are on the tail end of the lead lap. I believe Jason San Diego, Danny Rubino, I believe the 11 car as well is on the top end, or at least the tail end rather, of the lead lap. So not sure if anybody's really going to lose a lap because of this, but it's going to create a different shift in track position.
All right, well, Blake, we're going to try to do some more reporting right here as well. A little bit ago, we saw Harry Codien's number 13. You bill with a big cloud of smoke coming on the pit road, and I'm going to see Harry Codien. Phil for Full Velocity, buddy. Do you have a copy?
Yeah, how's it going, guys?
We're doing all right, man. I got to ask you about your race car. It was really good up there running in the inside lane. Was it motor let go? Was it getting on pit road and hit the wrong gear or shifted down too soon? What the heck happened to that thing? You had a good piece.
Man, I don't know. I had to go back and watch the replay myself. No, it was still in fourth gear. I didn't over rev it or anything. I stayed out and got the five there, and it was good. I was just trying to hang in there, and I knew I had to stop a lap or two early. I saved as much gas as I could, but yeah, when I came down, the light just came on for fuel, and then the other light came on, and Keith said there was a big puff of smoke out from behind it, and that was all she wrote. So I don't know. It's going to be close now, I think. Hanging in and making the top eight, I think that's going to hurt.
Yeah, that probably will a little bit, Harry. But man, you had a really good piece, and it sounds like you had no warning whatsoever. How much are you guys leading these cars out as far as gear, maybe some tape? Are you guys on the bitter end of these setups, maybe running them a little bit too hot, or were you guys playing it conservative? And was that just one of those random, game failures that sometimes reach up and grab us, and just it's so random it unfortunately chose you?
Yeah, I think it did, and I think it got the 31, who is always stellar here.
Yep.
Same thing, no warning. I had 75, but I had a good gear. This is my set that I run continuously here, and yeah, just no warning, no hot. Oil pressure was good, temp was good, and just it was my turn.
Man, that definitely stinks, man. I know this racetrack you've always run really well at, always seem to be in contention at Talladega, but I hate it for you to be out early as you try to race your way into the round of 8. What's that pressure feel like now as you guys head into next week? Well, where do we go next week? We back to, oh man, help me out, Blake. Where do we go next week?
I think we're going to Kansas, right?
Kansas, that's right, indeed. Kansas.
Yeah, and that's not one of my favorite tracks, so yeah, I'm definitely gonna be working on the set for this one. It's gonna be close.
All right, well, Harry,
this should be a good race here. I'm gonna stick around and watch. My money's gonna be on on Brian getting his first win tonight. He looked pretty strong up there.
He sure did. It's really good to see him running well, Harry. Great to talk to you once again, man. Wish it was under better circumstances. But, hey, for those out there watching tonight via Facebook Live and YouTube and Twitch TV, may watch this back later. But anybody out there you want to say hello to or thank or sponsors, whoever, take a mic here for a second, buddy, and I'll thank all the good people out there, and I'll give a shout to whoever you need to.
Well, yeah, of course, the Beanos, Steve and Dan, great league, so much fun to race here every week. And you guys are here a lot. You see the competitive league we have here, so that's a great fun. I thank those guys. I thank you guys for covering, tonight after dinner and maybe a beer. I'll sit back and watch the telecast. I always enjoy that. You guys do a great job. And then M4S is it's my business. I'm a certified Mila installer. M4S stands for My Four Sons. I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but I'm going to thank myself there.
All right. Well, hey, that's always good there. Put the company on, and great you do that, man, Harry. Good luck, man. One of the good ones for sure out here in this community, and we wish you best luck here next week at Kansas. We'll certainly be watching, bud.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
All right. You too, buddy. Harry Cody, and the number 13, and we had Everett come out there, Blake, and tell us what happened to that car, but I saw Harry was still here. He's a great guy, really good interview, and I wanted to grab him in here and see what was the story in that car, and just unfortunately, poof. I mean, no warning. I think we've all been on that wrong side of things. It just stinks because he's a guy who comes into Talladega and a notorious, really good restrictor plate racer. We do have a lot of those in this community, and that's one of them right there. God, he's going to be hating being on the wrong side of this thing.
Oh, absolutely. I was on the wrong side of it in a league I ran on Sunday myself. You run Talladega, and unfortunately, it's just such a wild card. Anything can go wrong and just put a dash in your championship hopes. And unfortunately, Harry Cody and meeting the same fate was running up front, had a great race car, but the racing gods, at least here at Talladega, they do not discriminate. That's for sure. So we'll see how this field responds to that, how many of these guys are going to be able to overcome some of that adversity that perhaps they faced early in the race. And I think we're going to see a much bigger pack. 27 laps to go when we get the green flag. Don't think you're going to see too many people hanging off. Can't afford to lose that lead pack as it's go time here at Talladega. 27 to go, and once again, Brian Voiles will take us to green. Danny Hardy right behind him is the iRacingIFlag.com. Green flag is in the air, and we're back underway here at Dega.
Yes, we are. He said 27 laps to go as we come back up through the gears into the quarter. Voiles, Hardy, Maverick, Gary Moore, and Eddie Rayleigh now up into the top 5 with a single file restart. that big number 27, Blake. Nobody can make from here. You're going to make at least one more stop if the things run green. Now think about it. Do you split it in half? Do you run this thing all the way dry? If you're out there with your car right now, where's the money? Or are you banking on the other guys around you to communicate and knowing full well you probably need a dance partner to come in? What would you be thinking right now if you're out there making the call here for a group?
So I'm gonna play it by ear, and as soon as everybody pulls down to go on pit road, that's when I'm going. You can't afford to be running some laps where you don't have help around you. Obviously, everybody can make it on one stop to the end, but I'm gonna figure out, can I take a can? Can I take a half a can? Can I take a can and a half? Because all of that makes such a big difference timing-wise on pit road for getting tires at this point. But I'm going to pit when the pack does so that I can be sure that I'm not going to fall behind on any draft.
You got to have that draft. You just can't, bear to lose it. You got to take your chances to stay out there. And you never know. You may get one of those lucky yellow flags in the middle of stops that we just saw, and that may kind of help you come on to pit road, avoid that costly mistake that you may get because you look down and you saw guys like Jeff Fugate came in. He got a penalty there, Blake, under that yellow flag. He had to restart this one at the rear of the field, so that's certainly tough to see. That's a long way to go for that number 9 car back there in 22nd. Now the question is here, we did see 2 distinct packs in that nice little green flag run we just had. Are we going to see this group kind of stay together, or are we going to start breaking up and go back into 2 packs again? What do you think?
Well, it's looking like right now there's a bit of 2 packs. If this top groove would realize that, if I was in this front group, I would be saying, hey guys, get single file so we can cut off probably about 10, 12 cars out of contention. If you're in the backpack, you want those guys in front of you to race hard, and it looks like they are, as several guys trying to make this bottom side work. You see Brett Carter on the bottom side. Rayleigh in that U.S. Army Chevrolet is trying to make it work as well. But if I'm everybody else, I'm saying get in line and work together so that we can cut all those guys who are trailing us in the draft right now. We don't have to worry about them. They can continue to fall back, but I don't think these guys are realizing that. They're going to allow this backpack to catch up.
Yeah, they are. That's going to bring this whole group of what is going to be about 24 cars back together if all works out that way. So I think this top group maybe had a chance to, maybe go out there and settle it amongst themselves so we stay green, but going to put the pack back together. And when you do that, well, you may stimulate some pretty good side-by-side racing. You see a couple of cars attempting to make that move on a line. I saw Manny D take a look. I saw Mavericks bright green number 23 take a look over there, but now it's the first car down low. That might be Eddie Rayleigh back in the 112. He's trying to make waves on the low side once again.
He is, and can he move up in front of Manny D? Not quite, but now he has Keith McLean right in front of him, and I think this front group's starting to realize a little bit that it may be better to just ride in line, because that's the biggest thing about super speedway racing. If you're going to run green, you can be anywhere in this pack. You can be first, you can be 10th, you can be 20th. As long as you nail your green flag pit stop and don't lose the lead pack, you have a chance to win this race. So if I was up front, that's exactly what I'd be doing. Don't risk it going side by side, risking being in an accident. Stay in line, and then you have to focus on where your brake markers are and how you're going to nail this green flag stop, because that's what's going to make the difference if we go green. Whoever has a good stop, those are the only guys that are going to have a chance to win this thing.
Absolutely right. And I got to assume if you're coming down for that money stop under green this late in the going, probably about maybe a can, no more than a can and a half of gas, you would think. Is that a guaranteed gas and go? Maybe 2 tires? I don't want to risk any time, maybe get a lug nut stuck. I'm thinking just fuel if I got to come in under green.
Oh, no doubt about it. I think most of these guys are probably going to take a can, because there's about an 8-lap difference in what they're going to have to make up. So I think a can will get you there, and I wouldn't even risk taking 2 tires. It's not worth it. Could add as much as a second onto your pit stop time, so I'm just not going to worry about it. I'm going to take a can and get the heck out of there as quickly as possible. So we see out front the top 7 cars all single file, but through the rest of this field, Phil, they're getting racy. Rich Napick trying to lead that low side, and he's got a handful of cars, Herman Reese and 59 of Sorensen, Randy Smith right behind him.
Yeah, they're trying to group up 4 cars together down to the low side, but numbers are not, in their benefit right now. As you see Carter go by in the 66, Ron Simpson's number 25, also Brendan Spatafora is 37. So that group that stayed committed at the top, they kind of all have it sorted out right now. But then you see that run this low side is going to get on corner entry. That's where that 6 car really gets a good run through, but then you get off and even off on the straightaway. Then you see where the train goes on by. You get Herman Riccio changed lanes. Here goes Duke back on by. Is there an issue for the 6 car? Because he got loose down there because he's losing all that track position from about 8th. He may drop all the way back to potentially about 20th. Tough break for that 6 car.
No doubt a tough break. He's able to save it and keep it going, but this is exactly what we're talking about. These guys are going to get racy. Is an accident going to be caused? And the other thing you have to think about, and this is, again, just something that's kind of off the wall, but is something that does come into play. KJ Kilojoules, he's got to win. He is automatically through to the next round of the playoffs, and he'll be in the round of 8. He can have some influence on who he might face in that round. You're thinking about, well, maybe there's a guy that's below the cutoff right now, maybe running 10th, 11th, 12th in the point standings right now. Can I get behind him and maybe push a guy like that to the front and try to win this race? Because I'd rather race him than another guy that's in it right now. So if you're KJ, you're pretty much the only driver that can afford that. If you see any driver up here that's in the playoff picture that you would rather race than another driver, you can take the risk and try to push them to a win and make your path to a championship a little bit easier.
I'm going to go completely upside down on that thought as well. A guy like Maverick of the number 23, he is in this round of 12, but he was not present last week. So he comes in tonight 12th in the standings, almost needing 2 really good runs or maybe a win to push him into the next round. If you're Maverick up in the 23, you're up in the top 5, you get a good piece. Are you going to take a risk here later on in the race that may put you to victory lane?
I think missing a race, that the amount of points you lose in that is just almost impossible to make up in just 2 races. So if you're Maverick, you're going to do everything you can to try and win. And I think he's taking the smart route. He played his cards right early, was a little bit conservative, hanging around in the back of the pack, and now as the laps start to wind down, he started to creep up towards the front. He's made some aggressive moves right now, though everybody's starting to abandon him as they've gone to the bottom side of the racetrack. So a bit of a exodus once again as the rest of this field that has largely run in the middle and the top side for the majority of this race, they're all starting to move to the bottom, and that's costing Maverick some precious time. He was running in the top 3 or 4. He's back to 7th now.
Sure is, and that's exactly what happened. That 23 car losing a couple of spots, but he gathers it back up in line, and I'm kind of wondering here as I'm looking around and watching these guys go through the pack and see where they kind of go. I'm just kind of watching who is kind of taking that peak to the low side, who is kind of starting to get together with dancing partners. I'm seeing some teammates like with Steve Grant and Randy Smith. They're starting to get together back outside the top 10. I'm seeing the likes of, say, Manny Diaz, another independent driver. He's back there with Brendan Spadafora, Chris, Maverick there. You're going to think those 3 guys may be thinking coming together with no team alliance to go with. Then you look up to the front group at Voiles and Hardy, McLean, Johnson, KJ. That's the PPR2 team. They got 1 through 5. You got to think all those guys up there are going to be thinking in unison. You wonder now, is it time to start picking your partner and starting looking toward that round of stops you may have to make? Because some guys who potentially came in last time may only have about 4 or 5 laps of fuels here left.
Well, if I'm a driver in this field and I see that many guys that are all on the same strategy, I'm going to pit as soon as I can pit with them. Or you can do the flip side because those guys are going to work together, and not that they're just going to try to push somebody to a win, but they're going to help themselves before they help anybody else. Maybe you try to flip strategy and do the opposite. Maybe the rest of the field pits and leave those 5 guys out there to try and pull some time and lose some time in that draft. But again, there's just a lot to be left here. 16 laps to go. Still a lot to be decided. Maverick got a little bit loose there on the bottom. He's able to collect it. No issues here, but you also have to think about as these guys start to get closer to green flag pit stops, probably going to want to be in the bottom lane because if you're in the top, can't really cut across traffic to make it a pit road.
No, absolutely not. You got to see how these guys start to kind of flow along these lines, because I can tell you, I've got a couple of guys I've been going back and forth with, and there are cars that potentially, Blake, may be on pit road in about 3 or 4 laps. And I think the first of those right now may be Ralph Pauly's number 61. And I also think Caleb Lingo's number 113. I think that's going to be a part of the first group that you may see start coming to pit road. And These are guys who pitted, right before that last yellow flag had come out. Maybe they did not come on pit road under this yellow because it really seems early for these guys to be coming in. As I see Caleb Lingle, the pole sitter, making that long ride down pit road, and he's got to feel like he's on an island down there.
Well, I think for Lingle, he's making a strategy where he doesn't want to be around anybody. He's running the back ever since he got shuffled out from the front. He's running the back. He's thinking, well, I'm in a great point position as it is. I'm kind of playing this like Denny Hamlin did in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series race yesterday. I just don't want to get wrecked. Don't want to make a mistake. If I end up finishing 15th or 20th or so, I can afford that. There's really not a whole lot to be gained. So perhaps Lingle's just hoping to avoid an accident. And then you also have to flip it. If we get a yellow flag before these guys come down pit road, he's actually going to cycle through to be the leader because he's not going to have to pit again. So perhaps a good strategy call by Lingle. Either way, it may work out for him, and actually may not work out for him as Brian Voiles, he's pulling up to Caleb Lingle. He's about to put him a lap down.
Yep, he sure is. That's going to lose one lap there. The good news for Caleb, he's going to get back in the draft, so maybe not too much loss there. At least now going to be out there running around by himself. He'll have this pack as we look off turn number 4. And there is a lot of cars coming down on the pit lane, including Herman Reese of 73. Somebody locked them up, and oh man, through the cloud, it looked like somebody else. Somebody
it's
up there
Gary
in the grass.
Moore, and he's through the inside of the infield.
No.
He actually blew a left front tire, so he's trying to collect that thing that's not handling well. It looks like we were talking about this earlier, how difficult it is to get on pit road here at Talladega. Well, it looks like he locked the front brakes up, and once you do there, man, you're on for a ride because of how fast you're going. He blew a left front, spun it in the infield, and pretty much any chance for him to win this race is all about shot if he doesn't get a yellow flag here, but we're still under green.
Yeah, we sure are. We're 54 laps in. That other group come in. I saw Herman Reese on the pit road. I saw Duke Sorensen down there. Danny Rubino. Now the whole PPR2 team, I think, maybe peeling in here as I see Brian Voiles.
Oh, and Keith McLean overshot it.
No.
He misses pit road.
Man, a veteran like Keith McLean, look at him. He hit the grass, Blake, and he kept his foot in it, knowing, hey, I made the mistake now. I know I'm going to get the penalty. I got to minimize the penalty I'm going to get here. Probably at least 30 seconds for that. You got to dig all you can because now he's slowed it on down. But that's a tough break. Keith McLean, his chance to win Mavis also gone up in smoke.
Well, it does, and again, that really hurts the rest of his team because you got to think only about 4 or 5 guys pit right there. You lose somebody in the draft like that that's going to be serving a penalty. That is going to cost you a good amount of time. So if I'm the rest of this field, I'm going to stay out as long as I can with the rest of these cars because you have about 10 or 15 cars to draft. So I would stay out and make those guys draft for as many laps as possible with the small pack they're going to have. By the time this cycle's out, they won't be anywhere near you.
Oh, and there they come off of turn number 2 as they all exit pit road. The 28 going to lead that group, but as we know, he is more than likely going to have some kind of pit road penalty. They're missing that commitment code to come in and adhere to. So now I wonder, knowing that he's got the teammates that have all of us kind of exited pit road, depending on where that gap lays, Blake, does he stay out there for a lap or two and run down that couple of laps that you get grace period before you have to come in? Because they look like they may have a little bit of gap between themselves and the group behind them. That include like the Carter Machine, Manny D's back there, Ron Simpson. They got a pretty good gap up there up front.
They do, but again, there's only, there's 4 cars in this draft right now. It's Johnson, Voiles, KJ Kilojoules, and Danny Hardy. They're going to make up some ground, it looks like, past some of the cars that are exiting pit road right now. Steve Grant, Kevin Roy, Jason San Diego, and Maverick, as they're not up to speed yet, so they'll pass those cars. But again, if I'm the rest of this field, I'm just going to stay out as long as I can, force these guys into a bad situation. But it looks like they're not faring too poorly, though. We still only have 3 guys that have, or actually they're on pit road right now, as Napick, Fugate, and the 10 of Randy Smith are pulling off pit road. But it looks like these PPR2 cars, they got off of pit road pretty well. They're in the lead, and I think they may put a gap. However, there's one of these cars that are coming down pit road. It's Brian Voiles. He must have had a pit road penalty.
Oh, no. Brian was having such a good night up at the top 5 all night long, and it must have been Pit road speeding there for that number 68. Man, that stinks, and that just puts the pressure on these guys. That money stop at Talladega, knowing it's going to be under green. You got to do it just right. We saw some really good ones. Keith McLean blew it. Gary Morin went around, and now even Brian Voiles gets a penalty. God, we take for granted just how tough it is to pit here under green.
We were talking about it, and unfortunately for a place like Talladega that you imagine all these people drafting together in a huge pack, these green flag pit stops are the great unequalizer, and they'll separate this entire field as there's going to be a couple of packs right now that formed as we're right at 10 laps to go. Well, it'll be 9 to go this time by. But you have to look forward. If I'm guys like Manny D, Kevin Roy, Brendan Spatafora that are right behind this field, you need to stay in line and outrun those guys in front of you. They have less people to draft with. You need to get in line and try all you can to try to catch them. This is where you have to say, hey guys, if you want a chance to win this race, form up right now. We can go catch those guys, but we need to work together and do it now.
Yeah, and I'm watching this group up front, Blake, as those guys are pulled away. Ricky Johnson, KJ, Danny Hardy, Randy Smith there. I was watching Jeff Fugate, and he was on the very edge of picking up this lead group. He kind of backpedaled it a little bit, went to pick up the 23 of Maverick. They also found the 22 of Jason San Diego, who had a bad pit stop. He may have a good car, left on one lap down, but any kind of help that you may be able to get to chase down that lead pack, that may be just enough to keep that second group behind him if they don't stay together.
No doubt about it, and now we have a battle for the lead as KJ Kilojewell is going to try to take his crack at it. He's moved up to the second spot. Danny Hardy has taken the lead here at Talladega. How fitting is it, that black 03 Chevrolet, remembering the legend Dale Earnhardt. We saw Richard Childress drive the last car that he won a cup race in this past weekend. Probably one of the best sights of the weekend was Childress piloting that 3 Goodwrench Chevrolet. How fitting is it that Danny Hardy, as we come to 7 laps to go, is out front at Talladega, not running for a playoff spot. He's just running to try and win, and he's doing a great job right now, and he's got a mirror full of 2 different lanes right behind him.
Sure does, and we had a race down to the inside because Jeff Fugate has come low with help from Mavericks number 23. They're alongside Ricky Johnson. They made their way over to KJ, and it may be a 2-car tandem down low. Can Jeff Fugate make the run on Danny Hardy for the race lead as we approach turn 3?
And it looks like they can't. They're going to stall out here on the back straightaway without the draft. Only 2 cars down there. We'll see what these guys do. They'll elect to run the middle. Fugate trying all he can to try and run up there alongside the door of Ricky Johnson, and then he'll try to pull up, get the draft that he can grasp off of Randy Smith. Smith's not going to let him do it. He'll stay in the outside lane, and then we look up front. Danny Hardy trying to pull that bottom lane as well as block the top lane, so he needs a bottom lane to be battling with so he can move back and forth and block both of those lanes. But he's got a mirror full of KJ Kilojewell, who, as we mentioned, has nothing to lose. He's already won in this round, but you tell a race car driver that he's looking for more wins.
Yeah, and you look at that group behind, you got Jeff Fugate down low, needing to maybe take a win to, put himself comfortably into that.
Oh, there's trouble on the back straightaway.
Oh, no.
Several cars around here on the infield. Rich Napick is in it. He's flipped over. His car is done. Kevin Roy's involved. Ron Simpson, Ralph Pauly, Danny Rubino. Yellow flag is out, and that'll not slow up the front part of this field because they're racing back here. This could be to set up for a 1-lap shootout, and we'll see who wins it to the line. Kilojewell's going to make the move on the outside, and he'll win the race back to the caution flag.
Man, it was that the end of the night right there because we have cars a lap down, but a big wreck off the exit of turn number 2, and it brought a lot of drivers in that second pack into it. Simpson's there. Spatafora got a piece. Rich Napick's car destroyed. Bob Gibson's car take a huge hit. Man, that really stinks for that second pack who we talked about. They want to run down this lead group. They need to get together, and it looks like, Blake, if we look back at a BladeNote.com full velocity instant replay, they did anything but get single file to try to run down these leaders.
No, they didn't, and if you're these leaders, you really hate to see that. You were thinking a couple laps ahead, when am I going to make my move? How do I have my teammate with me? All of those things go out the window when you're racing back to the yellow flag, and again, now it's just up in the air. Was that for the win, or are we going to get perhaps a 1 or maybe 2 lap shootout here here to the end, which that is really going to shake things up because, again, single file restart's going to be really hard to make some moves on the bottom with everybody running in the middle or top side of the racetrack. But now it's just a waiting game. Kayla Jules made the move on the outside in the tri-oval over Danny Hardy, who was unable to block his attempt. He got a push from Ricky Johnson to go on by, and he takes what could be a checkered flag here as they race back to the caution. Just have to wait and see, Phil. It's a waiting game. I hope we get another restart, but just unsure, like you said, with a couple of cars a lap down, what we're going to get here.
Yeah, I'm going to guess we're going to get a one-lap shootout, but it may not happen, as I believe this will be the first time past pit road, so you're at least going to have pits open next time by for those lap-down cars, and then potentially maybe the one to go that next time by. So if I got that math right, 64, 65, potentially a one-lap shootout, but man, you would think this could be a break for a couple of these guys that were, on the tail end of the lead lap. Brian Voiles, Keith McLean, those guys that had that pit road penalty. Well, next day the lead lap, they get back to the top 20. But for guys like, like Bob Gibson, for guys like Rich Knappich who are racing for a championship, guy like Ron Simpson who was in that mix as well. Big hit for those guys, and it looks like all three of those drivers are all going to end up behind the wall. A late race, big one in that second pack. I'm just, completely confused why they weren't getting in line because the leaders were really racing hard up front. 3 seconds ain't a lot to run down at Talladega if they get racing. You have a whole group, all put back together. I just can't believe they were back there racing as hard as they were.
It confuses me too, Phil, because you have to think everybody up front was trying to get that track position. They were running side by side. They were trying to set themselves up for a chance to win this race. But if you were back there racing, you were throwing away your chance. You had no chance to come and try to run these guys down at the front of the field and try to win this race. So I'm with you, Phil, there. Very confusing what they were doing back there, but on the flip side, a caution flag does help them out. It's going to bunch up the field if we do get a restart. We're just going to have to see if that comes to fruition. But indeed, tough luck for Rich Knappich, a playoff driver who, coming into tonight, had quite a gap there on Maverick, who was the first car beneath the cut line. Let's see if I can do my math correctly. 110 points was Rich Knappich coming into this race. Of course, the older point system, so getting in that accident, he'll retire as a result of it, and he'll finish 24th. So that's going to be a big points hit for that 6 car.
Yeah, it really will be, and that's tough for Rich Knappich at number 6 as we come back here off turn number 4. I believe this is a lap there. A lap down cars will get down pit road. But looks like we're going to be at least one more trip under the yellow. I was kind of playfully whispering back and forth with KJ, as I see him do here on a weekly basis. And I'm going to tell you what, Blake, he is begging for this thing to stay green because even that 029 with the lead at Talladega feels like, hey, if these guys get wound up behind me, I am a sitting duck. I think he may be doing the rain dance right now behind the wheel of that 29. Even with a win, the competitive nature of these race car drivers, we want another one, even if we're safe.
You're right, Phil, and we're going to find out this time around once the pace car comes back around to the start-finish line, which for some reason, and I don't know why this always is, we have to remind people out there, because it is Talladega, that the start-finish line is not in the tri-oval. Why? I don't know. It seems like everybody should know that at this point, but we'll go ahead and say it again. The start-finish line past the tri-oval, we'll see the pace car pass it, and if the lights go off, we're going to be set up for just a one-lap shootout to decide it all here at Talladega. And, of course, if the lights stay on, well, business as usual, and this will be the official finishing order tonight. KJ Kula-Jules will take down the win, barring any just random catastrophe that could happen to him under the yellow flag. So you just have to look back and see who is the first guy that could take advantage of a playoff win. Obviously, Fugate up in the 4th position coming into tonight on the playoff grid. Of course, a win would kind of alleviate any worries that he would have to have about Kansas. You see Randy Smith, he's 9th right now, so he's actually 1 point beneath that cutoff that you need to be above to make it in, so he could definitely use a win as well. Can he work his way up from the 5th position to try and win this thing? And obviously you mentioned Maverick. Missed a race already in the round of 12. He could use a win as well. Steve Grant also in that category. So several guys from 5th or 4th to 7th rather, could really use this moment. But we'll have to see, Phil, will the lights go out or not?
All right, well, I'll tell you what, I know the O29 is screaming. There is debris everywhere. The backstretch do not turn the lights off, but let's see the moment of truth as we hit the start-finish line. What's the verdict going to be? Long, long wait. The lights go out. We're going to get a one-lap shootout. Man, what a way to settle this one here tonight in Talladega. Can KJ hold on? He's got team cars with Hardy and Johnson behind. Guys like Fugate, Smith, and Maverick Grant, those guys all hungry for a win, running for a championship. I don't know what to expect right here. Are the two team cars behind the 29 going to keep him there, or is it all bets are off, all team owners are going, and let's go racing and see who wins this thing? I know what Joe Allen would have did to us.
Of course we know what Joe would elect to do, but I think it's every man for himself. Obviously, if you're Johnson, you're going to try and move Hardy to where he's side by side with KJ. But from that, you can try and make a move 3 wide and try to go win this thing. Fugate, he's got to hope that these guys get out of shape, utilize and kind of play a counter strategy to whatever these guys are trying to do to try and secure himself that win. Randy Smith and Maverick, they'll be trying something in desperation to try and move on to the next round. So, again, going to be really interesting to see. We have a lot of players, and that's the great thing about Talladega. You could be running 13th right now with Herman Reese or 14th with Danny Rubino. You still have a chance to win this race because, as we know, anything can happen here at Talladega.
Absolutely right, and I think it's time for the partners to go away and see what cards are on the table and hope you bring this thing back in one piece. I've known a couple of guys in the situation to say, hey, I'm bringing back the checkered flag or the steering wheel, and I guess we're about to find out what. I see Bobby Farrell's a little bit late to the party in chat tonight. I know Bobby would rather come back with the checkered flag and up the steering wheel. I think we both brought the steering wheel back a couple of times in the situation. But, man, let's settle this thing, Blake. The pace car is into pit road, and now there's a long crawl through the tri-oval. 2.66 miles left to settle this one. Can Kilojoules hold on? Will it come from outside this top 3? I guess we're about to wait and see because we got Racing Eye flag. Green flag is, well, we're waiting, and there it is. Green flag up in the air.
Green flag in the air. Hardy got a good restart, a little bit of a shove from Ricky Johnson. Does he try to make a move into one? He'll hit the back of Kilojoules as they head into one for the final time. Danny Hardy, this is going to be good, though. He's going to try and get a run here down the back straightaway. Fugate moves up to 3rd. He'll move past Ricky Johnson. Hardy and Fugate will get a run down the back straightaway. We'll see what they can do with it.
KJ may have to make that car 3 or 4 lanes wide here over at turn number 3, protecting the bottom side. Hardy will follow. So will Jeff Fugate in the number 9 as we approach into turn number 3, all running the bottom. Man, you got to make the move now. It's a long way around. They all stay single file at the bottom. Who is going to have enough? Looks like KJ. He'll lead the field off of 4.
KJ going to try to make that wide as we head into the tri-oval for one final crack at it. Fugate's going to try to get a push from Johnson, but he's not going to be able to do it. Hardy with the draft, but it's not going to be enough. KJ wins his 2nd race in a row and gets it done at Talladega.
Kilojoules taking down the win over Danny Hardy. Jeff Fugate will grab 3rd. Maverick with a really good run tonight, needing a good night, needing a win, I would think. Maverick going to grab 4th. Ricky Johnson finishing up 5th. Randy Smith with a terrific points night for the 10 car. He'll finish up 6th. Steve Grant will finish 7th. Manny Diaz, a great night for Manny D. The car comes home in the 8th spot. Brett Carter for 9th. Pushrod, Bob Becker, a terrific run. Bob getting a top 10 in the number 17. Eddie Rayleigh gets 11th. Duke Sorensen 12th. Herman Reese a quiet night. Herman finishing up 13th. Keith McLean 14th. Kevin Roy, another guy that was racing for a championship. An off night for the 77 car, bringing home a top 15. Danny Rubino will finish 16th. Brian Voiles, man, he's going to be disappointed to finish up 17th. Ralph Pauly 18th. Brendan Spadafora 19th after a good night. And Caleb Lingler, Polster, Blake. That rounds at our top 20. Man, what a finish.
What a finish indeed, as getting it done on the last lap, I believe on the last lap for the 2nd week in a row. KJ gets it done, but like you said, Caleb Lingle, a bad points night for him after qualifying on the pole. He'll finish in 20th. Gary Morin finishes 21st. Jason San Diego comes in 22nd. And then a collection of cars that did not see the checkered flag in this event. Ron Simpson, 23rd. Rich Knappich, 24th. Bob Gibson, 25th. Everett Lentz, 26th. Harry Codian, 27th. Steve Rubino, 28th. Ricky Bumble, 29th. And then Wiley King, 30th. And Jeff Stakanis, who faced some engine trouble early on before the rest of this field. He finishes up in the 31st spot. So 31 drivers made 66 laps, and at the end of the day, it's KJ Kilojoules who gets it done here in Alabama.
Yes, he does. And we'll talk to our top three here on BladeNo.com Full Velocity Post-Race Show. We'll try to get these guys all screened out quickly, or it looks like you may have already did it or not. Maybe you didn't. I'm trying to locate these guys. Where the heck are they all hiding up there? There's a lot of names up there in TeamSpeak I'm trying to figure out. So we need definitely KJ. There we go. I think we've got him here. We find KJ. We need to grab Danny Hardy and Fugate. I think we can get this done. I believe this one here would be Jeff.
Trying to look for Fugate. I can't really find him.
I think he's on there as Jeff, I believe. So we'll grab the Jeff and we'll take a shot at that, and then I'm going to locate where is Danny Hardy and all this up here.
He disconnected.
Yes, he did. So it doesn't look like we'll talk to you3. If I know Danny, he'll probably come back here in short order. Usually resets his stuff here post-race. So we'll move into the post-race show now here, live on Full Velocity. Tonight's winner, KJ, the number 029, Danny Hardy for second, and our third place finisher going to join us now. I believe that's Jeff Fugate in the number 9 there. We're going to throw trackside 2. So, Blake, I'll throw it to you. Take it away and talk to our third place finisher.
Indeed, Phil, I'm along the driver of the number 9 Sundrop Dodge, and that is Jeff Fugate, who really played his race smart. Started 10th, finished up 3rd. Solid points effort, but Fugate, it looks like you had a great opportunity there at the end. You get the one-lap shootout, but it just seemed like it was really hard to get up to speed there with just one trip around.
Yeah, I figured I'd get one on them, and I did there on that restart. And but man, it's hard to get up to speed, and I didn't want to go on the outside when we was coming back around because I knew somebody go to the bottom, and then I probably wouldn't get third. So I was kind of protecting that, not get too stingy.
No doubt about it. You may be disappointed. You don't get the win that locks you into the round of 8, but good news for you. You were 4th on the playoff grid coming into the race tonight. Obviously, a third-place finish is going to be something that the team is at least happy to get out of Talladega with.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you always want to win, but it was fun. Jeff Stegenhouse, my teammate, blew the motor early in the race, so we always work together. So I was kind of digging out there by myself for a while, and I dropped clear of the back on that one run because I stayed out and led a lap, make sure I got a lap in, and then had to put a lap or 2 earlier than everybody else. And then cautions fell and got me back in, but I figured I'd be all right anyway. But I went ahead and stopped on the next to the last because I thought, well, if we don't have a caution, I'll have plenty of fuel. I can go a little bit farther, and I'll have to take less in the pits, and I'll come out. And that's actually worked out. Where I come back out, I think I come back out, got up to speed about 4th or 5th there, and then a caution come out. But yeah, it worked out.
Well, actually, talk about that a little bit. You see your teammate go behind the wall early. What's kind of the communication that goes behind that, or perhaps some of the worry? Because obviously, I'm assuming the setups are very similar. Is that something that once you see your teammate go down, are you kind of hearing every rattle in that car a little bit differently?
Yeah, instantly. Where I'm like, hey, was it hot? What was it doing? What happened? what lights come on? What was water temperature, oil? And he said, no, it just shut off. So it's just one of them things. We played with the gear a little bit for tonight's race, so we did change a little bit. Usually you don't have to change much at these super speedway races. Once you get something, it works. But we tweaked a little bit, and so that was the first thing I worried about. But it was just one of them fluke things, I guess. So we were good. But yeah, believe me, I was worried at first. I was thinking, oh, I'm in trouble.
No doubt about it. When you work so close with somebody and you see them go down, you just want to make sure you can get it to the end, and you certainly did that. Finished up on the podium tonight. I'll go ahead and hand the mic to you. Kind of give anybody a shout-out that you want to, that may be watching out there on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, anywhere you can view FERN.
Yeah, just thank everybody that's watching. We try to put on a good show. and it's a pretty good race tonight. It's tough to pass here. A lot of drafting, but you could work with each other and move up there. I think I passed more at the end there than I did anything, but yeah, and thank Steve and all the guys over at Hobo and the sponsors and you guys and everybody that's put this thing together and put on a good show, and all the good drivers tonight. Fun race.
We certainly did. 31 drivers came out tonight, and Jeff Fugate finishes up in the third spot. The driver of the number 9 Sundrop Dodge Challenger gets out of here with a good point state, sets himself up well for Kansas next week, but this guy has already set himself up. He came in with a win that already locked himself into the next round, and he said, Phil, well, 1 isn't enough. Why don't we try to get 2?
I tell you what, guy right here likes to win all the races he possibly can. Not even need to do this in Talladega. He was griping on the radio before that one-lap shootout that the debris was all over the racetrack. But KJ, you hold on, man. You get the second straight win here in this round of 12. Really didn't need this one for points out there to steal the checkered flag, and I almost feel like you snookered this one away from your teammates.
Yeah, I was kind of just hoping to finish this race. So I kind of looked up in a good situation there. But yeah, I really did not want that thing to go green. I made a gear change right before the race started, and it was a bad idea. It would not go at the start of the race.
Well, that gear is one thing to wish you had it then, but how does that play out for that one-lap shootout? Because your car really got up to speed. I thought a lot better than it really did. And talk about that bump behind that Danny gave you there, because that really jolted you up to a faster rate of speed. That may have been enough to hold guys like Fugate behind, who really had a big head of steam.
Yeah, PPR2, we had a good plan tonight. We all got together there, and we all kind of just helped each other out. We were going to try to help Brian get that win, and then he had that black flag, so that kind of changed strategy. Luckily, I had Danny behind me. Me and Danny's been teammates for over 10 years, so he told me he was going to stick with me so I could trust him. I told him just when it went green there, just hit me as hard as he could to shoot me out there, and I'll block as long as I had to, and luckily it worked. Well,
it sure did work for you. Now, we talk about these green flag pit stops at Talladega, knowing that money stop was going to come under green, and talk about this, how tricky it is getting on pit road here. I mean, we talk about guys like Brian getting the penalty, but even your teammate, Keith McLean, Keith completely blew pit road. He was on the grass. He looked like me out there. That's a veteran. That's a good driver. It's so easy to make a mistake like this. I think we take for granted how tough it is to get on the pit road here at Talladega under green.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of deceiving. It's a fast pit road. You're doing 55, but you're doing like 200 on the track. And then at plate tracks, you run really low brake bias. So if you hit the brakes too hard, or if you're not pointed directly straight, you can easily lock it up and just spin the car out. Or you can easily cook the tires and blow a tire out pitting if you're not careful.
Well, we definitely seen a couple of guys do that tonight there under that green flag pit stop. But KJ did a heck of a job. You stayed out of trouble all night. You were quiet early on, about 10th or 15th. You kind of weeded your way up. You found your teammates up to the field, and you get to that last yellow flag, and you win that race back to the line, man. A job well done. You got a lot of great people behind. I feel like we do this a lot, but I'm going to give you the mic one more time here on the network, Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitch TV as always. But give the folks a shout, and can you do this for 3 in a row next week in Kansas? Kansas has always been good to you.
I think it is 3 in a row, Phil. I won.
Right, you're right. It is.
And Talladega, so I'll take it. I'd love to keep it going.
All right.
First off, I want to thank my teammates, especially Danny and Ricky. Without them helping me there, I wouldn't have won that race. We had a good plan, and we kind of stuck to it there at the end. I also want to thank you guys in the booth, as always. Full Velocity Network. I was watching it again. Pretty good race. I seen that last wreck on the replay. That looked pretty nasty there. Also want to thank the Rubinos and all the admins at Hobo Racing for allowing us to race here and putting the race on. Also want to thank Brian Voiles and Voiles Trucking. We were going to try to get him that win tonight, but he had that speeding penalty there at the end, kind of ruined that. It's tough luck there. And also want to give another shout out to my wife, Jessica. That's 3 races in a row she's watched it, and I've won. So it's kind of like routine now. If she's not in here, I'm not going to race.
I like that right there, buddy. That is a good call right there. KJ Kilojoules, 3rd consecutive win and looking to make it 4 next week. Looking good, man. Looking good. I got a feeling we may be talking to you here in a couple of weeks. We get to Homestead. Good luck these next couple of weeks, man. And we'll keep this chatter going on here in the race. It's always a good time catch up here, bud.
Yeah, Kansas is pretty good for me. Phoenix, I've won, I think, 3 in a row in the league here. So if I need to, I kind of bank on Phoenix, but I kind of want to get it out of the way before then.
All right, well, there it is. The big target on his back there going into these next couple of weeks are tracks that really line up good for him. Number 29, KJ Kilojoules taking down the win.
User was moved out of your channel. User joined your channel.
At the Talladega Super Speedway, I did it again. I dragged one guy out. I never knew you could move multiple guys out of rooms. I've done this, it feels like 4 weeks in a row. I don't know how I'm doing it, Blake, but I astonish myself every time I scoop this thing up.
It's all right, Phil. Just excited moving these guys around and being able to talk to them after the race, which, give a shout out to these guys. Put on a great race for us tonight. 31 cars out here on a Tuesday night, late in the season. It's one thing about Hobo, the car counts are high, and these guys put on a whale of a show every single week. We've seen exciting finishes for the majority of this playoffs and the majority of the season that we've been riding along with these guys. And next week it's Kansas. I don't think we'll see any different.
I agree. I think it's going to be a heck of a show and can't wait to come back here next Tuesday night. As we said, we're going to take this series all the way to the conclusion of championship night. It'll be right here live with the Full Velocity Racing Network. That will basically do it for us for here at Talladega. Got to thank the Rubinos, all the gang over here, Hobo Racing. Got to thank Voiles Trucking for being our presenting sponsor. Thank our great sponsors here at the network, Hanover Record Service, iRacing, iFlag, Voiles Trucking, CCM Custom Designs and Engraving, BladeNode.com, South Texas Speedway, TDR Racing League, Hard Motorsports, Trash Panda Graphics, Eichstadt Wraps, and, of course, our buddy Brendan Spadaforo over at Full Throttle with the Gent on YouTube. For Jack Truan, Blake McCandless, Todd Stanton, Ron Piles, the rest of the group here at Full Velocity Racing Network. Phil Licassi are going to sign up, and we'll see you back here live tomorrow night. Dirt Warrior Racing League Wednesday night street fights. The dirt track at the Charlotte Motor Speedway is going to be a great time. Be there 9 p.m. Eastern time. So for everybody, have a great, safe night. And we'll see you back here live tomorrow on your source for esports racing. Have a good one.